about ready, Shane?
I am ready, yeah. All ready.
Alright. As soon as it turns 5, we'll start.
Are there motions in here?
Oh, I did send it out, I'll run them out. As soon as you guys start, I'll run off copies.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's so small, man. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, X-ray vision.
Alright. So, I'd like to call the select board meeting of Wednesday, August 14th, 2024 to order. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? We'll wait for, I don't believe there is. Alright, was there? Do you have it up? Any additions?
No, nothing under that.
Alright. Item 3, select board pay orders.
I move to approve pay orders and accounts payable.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was Taylor, so. Taylor motion. June second. Item 4, old business. 4A is interview candidates for the appointment to the planning commission. Guess before we start, does anyone need to get out of here right away?
No.
No, so it doesn't matter which one goes first? Who wants it?
Were they assigned times or not?
No, we
In
didn't
15
assign
blocks?
that.
We know that there's a few people that will be showing up later, so
Yeah.
just cycle through who's
With 8
here.
people trying to assign times, it's just gonna be a headache.
So you're gonna go first, Trevor?
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Stand up.
Sure.
It's all new to me, so bear with me.
Good.
My name is Trevor Powers, and my motivation to be on the planning commission is to be more involved with the town and the community that I've called home for all 43 years of my life. And also to learn more about how the town operates and to, be a part of that. Spent a lot of time here and I care about Londonderry a lot. It's a great spot to grow up and raise a family. I grew up right here in South Londonderry and went to Floodbrook Elementary.
Thank you.
After elementary school, I was off to Burnberg for high school. I grew up in the summertime working in the trades, residential construction mostly. And after high school, I went right into the workforce. So I became a carpenter, and I've spent the last, 24 years working right here in Londonderry and surrounding towns in construction, building homes. And I feel very fortunate that I've been able to do that. It's a lot of people don't have that ability right here. I've been fortunate also to work with a lot of the town residents and businesses for all those years, and kind of got a good idea of what's going on that side. And I thought maybe I might bring another set of eyes to the table, having worked in the trades all my life here in town. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yep.
So, Trevor, have you been involved with any groups, meaning like Boy Scouts or Floodbrook athletic groups or whatever?
I did.
Or you had to work
We
with a
grew up
committee?
I've never been on any boards, commissions, chairs,
Yeah.
but I was a Boy Scout.
Yep,
I didn't finish my community service project. I would have been an Eagle Scout,
it's
but
okay.
I got my license and
Yeah.
it goes that way. But yeah, we actually did Boy Scouts right in the basement of the church here in South Londonderry. We had great instructors. We had Nelson Coleman, who owns Coleman Hills, and
Yeah,
Michael Hughes and Peter and Danny Cobb and Melvin Twitchell. So they've been putting up with me since I was a little guy running around here. But,
great.
so other than that, I do not have any experience on boards, commissions, but I'm willing to learn and put forth my best effort for the town and to be more involved and be a part of it.
Great, thanks.
I can go next.
Go for it.
Trevor, what do you view as being the duties of the planning commission?
The duties?
Yeah.
I guess working together with the the rest of the commission for the better of Londonderry and the people.
Got any more?
For all of the people, not just a select few of the people. Listen to everybody and actually be a part of it, you know? Which I think nowadays it's hard to come by because some people are just set in their ways and they're not willing to listen to anyone. I am going to be willing to obviously listen to everybody and do what I think is best for all of the town.
I'll let everybody else have a chance.
Yeah. You guys got any questions?
I'm good.
I might just ask, what's your involvement or view of like social media as far as town business goes and just in general?
In general, overall, I'm not a huge fan of social media just because of all the way people can treat each other, go after each other, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't seem true to me. I've actually, a while back, I took a break. I just wanted to get off Facebook and all that stuff because it was just too much stuff getting thrown at you and you couldn't even focus on your own life. I think a lot of people get carried away on that side of it. I mean, I think it's great for technology and getting the information out there that's needed, but I think a lot of times it gets taken way too far, you know, and people act the way that they wouldn't usually act if they were looking somebody straight in the eye. But it is a very handy tool, I do know that. And it's great to get information, like I shoot archery, and a lot of the clubs and associations and stuff, that's how they get their information out there. It's not,
Notifications.
it's all on Facebook, you know, to see your results and all this and that and stuff, so. I think there's pros and cons to it if it's used correctly, but I think it can get out of hand and real quick sometimes, and just that back and forth stuff, and just put a bad taste in my mouth, so. I only go on it when I kind of have to,
Finding a balance is
yeah,
good, yeah.
so.
Can I ask if you're, I'm sure you're aware, but there's a fair amount of time involved in being a member. There's generally going to be 2 meetings a month, I suspect, and those can be.
They were down to 1 meeting a month.
Well, it
before
depends. I mean, they
everyone
get to
resigned.
decide. They get to decide what works for them. We're not going to prescribe that. It could be 2 meetings a month, and the meetings could be 2 hours long. And then, as I've discovered working on the select board, it's usually about 2 hours of work for every 1 hour meeting of homework to do and stuff. Is that going to fit in okay with your schedule?
I think so, yeah. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that I was ready and
Yep.
able to put the time in, you know, so
Yep.
I'll definitely make it work.
Great.
That's my plan. Nothing comes easy and you gotta put the time in for sure.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, two nights a month is fine with me if it gets back to the 2 instead of the 1. And I'm certain there's gonna be homework. I've got a lot more homework now that I have my own small construction company right here, so definitely takes homework, but add on a little bit to it, but I would be into it, willing to put in the time and effort.
Great, thank you.
What?
I'm all set right now.
You all set for it? Well, you answered my first question I had for everyone. My only other question is just what are your plans? What do you hope to accomplish by being on the planning commission?
I think my goal is to work together with the rest of the town, and I would like to accomplish, you know, the tasks that come at hand and what's best for the town, working as a whole, not as an individual. To make sure, because I care about Londonderry and I want to see it keep going the way it is. It was a great place to grow up and all that stuff. So my goals would be to work together for the best of our community and the town.
Thank you.
Have you kind of followed along with some of the work of the planning commission over the years or recently?
A little bit. Recently, yeah, because it's been everywhere. So, and that's kind of how I knew there were some vacancies, and I wanted to do something, and I figured, well, why not give it a shot? It's either this. If this doesn't work out, then I'm probably going to join one of the fire departments, because I know can't do both, but because of the time-wise and everything. But maybe you can down the road once if it were to happen. But I followed a little bit and things got a little crazy and stuff on the social media and all that. Actually, 4 or 5 years ago, Sharon asked me, she said it might be a good idea to think about doing a planning commission, but back then I didn't have the time or anything else. I was working full time for a cell builder, so, and trying to keep up with everything else.
Any further questions?
Okay.
Alright, thank you, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shane, before we move on, for the pay orders, Taylor made the motion.
Yep.
And Jim seconded.
Thank you.
Jimmy.
James?
Yeah, James. We gotta pick something besides Jim. We got Jim over here too. Alright, who wants to go next? Anyone?
Might as well.
Go for it, Brad.
Hopefully I don't want to repeat. It's similar. Same stuff.
We'll probably have the same questions too.
No, that's all right.
Just to keep consistent.
Good. So my name's Brett Van Rio. I know some of you. I've seen some of you in town. I've lived in town and been in the mountains since 91. When I graduated high school at Green Mountain and have moved and come back several times, but called Londonderry my home for the past 16 years consecutively. I too love Londonderry. I grew up skiing Magic Mountain. I worked all around the area. I do own a small construction company and raising a daughter. And just in light of the skerfuffle that's been going through the board and what's been happening in town, I thought that maybe I could lend a hand. Last year I thought about coming on to the planning commission, and things just kind of fizzled out. But I felt like now's the right
I'll give you the same question I gave Trevor. Is your plans for being on the planning commission? What's your hopes of getting?
Well, my hope would be to let Londonderry still be the town that it is. I felt like change is good, but too much change doesn't seem to work. And I hope with the planning commission, people that are on the board, we can right that ship and get it into a better direction and let Londonderry continue to be the great working town that it is.
What skills or qualities do you think you can bring to the new planning commission?
Skills. Good attitude. I like to think that I come at things at an obtuse angle, so maybe a little bit different than most people may think. I'd like to think that I'm relatively intelligent, so maybe that all mixed together can meld with everybody that's here, and we can get things back to some order.
Well,
And the time commitment doesn't
No,
seem to get in the way?
No, the only reason, the only thing that perhaps would get in the way, my daughter does theater, and if there's a show, that we won't know until the show happens. But other than that, no. I love homework.
Yep. A question, when you've worked with a group of people and you get to a kind of a impasse, what are some skills you use to move a group along or move folks to a resolution or a consensus? What are some techniques you might use for that?
Stop, take a breath, back up, and maybe look at the larger picture, and then refocus. I know just from what I've heard from town that people are passionate about this, and sometimes feelings don't work well in a business model. If there are things that are black and white, feelings don't really come into play. So I'd like to think having the patience and having the foresight to stop and regroup instead of being heated and trying to work through that. Doesn't typically work.
Any more?
Do you have any?
Tim?
No, I'm good.
I would just ask the same question about social media, and then kind of also about following along. You kind of answered that already with, you know, what's been going on, so.
I don't like social media. I'm not on it. My business has a Instagram page, and I pretty much treat it as a business. It's a place for people to look at my work. I do post a few things about my dog, but I just feel like, pretty much what Trevor said, people are so willing to offer up a lot of unnecessary commentary on something that you would never say to somebody's face. And I don't find it very helpful.
Fair enough.
Any further questions, Martha?
Okay.
Everybody good?
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. I guess we'll go with you, Jen. Next.
Hello. I'm Jen Greenfield. I've been here in Londonderry since 2016. I own Snowden Motel, Snowden Shelter Motel. I've moved here to Vermont by choice. Moved from Florida. I have experience with different, I'm on the Springfield Supported Housing Commission. We've actually housed the homeless at Snowden when COVID was happening. So I do have an idea of, like, you know, what's going on with affordable housing and that it's not really existent. I also have served on different committees when I lived in Florida. I come from a real estate background. I was a realtor, also worked in law firms in Massachusetts and Florida, commercial real estate. I've done title deeds, I've done assessing, you name it, to closing for, you know, housing and businesses. I've done it. Writing HOAs, fine print, done that. I've, you know, like I said, been here at Snowden, haven't really got involved with town, and finally have, you know, the ebbs and flows of life and surviving a pandemic and everything else, finally decided, you know what, it's finally time. So here I am. I'm going to do whatever the town needs to get it to go forward. Social media. I use social media for my business. I have organized campaigns on social media. There's a good and a bad to social media. It could be great to organize and get people riled up, but then it could be, you know, other things, you know, people have nothing else better to do than to bring people down, you know. There's a place for social media, you know, because there's different ones anymore. You know, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got TikTok, you know, there's all different kinds of things. Trying to think of the other questions that we already had. Go ahead, you guys ask, because I forgot what question. I'll try to look at this.
Good.
I guess what are some goals or issues you would like to see addressed in Londonderry through the planning commission?
I mean, like, I own a hotel, so I sell Londonderry every day of the week. You know, explaining to people what are the different activities to do here, you know, and what the town has to offer. So just going along with that, and then just getting more involved and being part of the change and helping the town along.
Thank you.
In your work with the Springfield Housing Group, have you encountered any situations where there've been sort of an impasse in terms of moving through a decision or whatever, and what role did you play with the group in that process?
We never really had an issue
Yeah.
there, but I mean, there are always issues elsewhere. Just to learn to be open, listen to everybody's, concerns, and then, do your homework and try to make it go forward, but listen to everybody and see what the different options are.
How large were the committees you worked on?
Like I said, I worked at Springfield Supported Housing. Trying to think how many was it? Maybe 10 of us on the board up there. And then I also worked with the Florida Democratic GLBTA, and I was their media and publicity chair. So I did social media for them.
And maybe somebody's asked this, but your vision for a Londonderry in 5 years, what do you think makes it wholesome and the same good place to be? What does it need? What do we need to be doing?
I think just a little bit more, communication, but not to tear anybody down. I guess maybe to be more unifying, and just trying to include everybody, be inclusive.
Thank you.
Answer the whole line already.
Yeah, answer the rest of mine.
Yeah, I think so.
You good?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
And, we're going to Justin.
Yep.
This is going a lot quicker than we thought.
I'm Justin Gibbs, lived here since 2015, and I'm a general contractor in the area. So that's me. I have zero experience on being on boards and that sort of thing, but I wish to gain a greater intimacy with my town, and I wish to know more of the people in it and serve those people. I have neither a wife nor children. I have time. It seems to sort of make sense at this time in where the town is at, and that's what I want to do.
This is one question I was going to ask everybody else that most of them already answered it before I could ask it, but what does Londonderry mean to you?
It's my home. It's my business. It's where most of my important connections are, friends and that sort of thing. And so it's a lot to me. I wouldn't say every single thing, but yeah, it's a lot. It's where I live, work, and play.
And then just my follow-up is, what do you hope to accomplish being a planning commission member?
I wish to get to know the will of the people of this town who live here. I'm very willing to go literal door to door and ask them in person, saying, "Hi, hey, I don't know you. I see you live here. Like, what is your opinion of X or Y or what, And if we are to be a town of the people, then that would be a great place to start, is asking them. So those are my goals.
All right. Thank you.
And I wasn't sure if you were here when I got asked initially, but there's probably 2 meetings a month, up to 2 meetings a month, and the meetings are a couple hours long, and there's usually homework for that. Is that okay on your schedule and stuff?
That all sounds reasonable to
Yep.
me.
Great. And have you worked with a group, whether it's a soccer team or a Boy Scout group or anything, where you've worked with other people having to
Oh,
accomplish?
sure, yeah, and mitigate conflicts or
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, if one side has an interest in X and the other Y, and they feel opposing, I am I'm not afraid of kind of stripping away, scrutinizing, asking hard questions, having hard questions asked of me, saying, I don't know, let me find out. Or I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive, so on and so forth. Yeah, like I'm okay with tough conversations and saying, I don't think what you're saying is correct, or I disagree with that, or respectfully, you know. Yeah, that's fine with me.
That was the question I was gonna ask too.
He just answered a couple that I was gonna ask.
Anyone else?
They're all asked.
All right.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. Move on to you, Andrea.
Hey, good evening, y'all. I'm Andrew Finney. I was born in Vermont, spent a lot of my time in Virginia and New Orleans stuff. Recently came back in the past few years to help on my family's sugar making farm down in West Wardsboro. My partner and I bought a house in Londonderry right in the middle of all the whole bylaws controversy that was going on. Went to the town meeting there, saw huge turnout. It was really nice to see just so many people in the community being passionate about what was going on. Since I moved here in June, joined the Woodland Fire Department, doing the sugaring. I've also applied to be on the planning commission here just to be part of the community.
I'll ask you the same questions. I know you're new to Londonderry, but what does Londonderry mean to you at this point?
I've made a lot of good friends here already in a short time, and it's a place where it feels like home, where you have neighbors and you support the businesses here, and it's important to have the relationships with people that you live nearby, and to just try to help out the best you can to make it a safe place and just a good place for everybody.
Like I asked Jen, do you have any, is there any issues or goals that you're eager to attack or achieve?
I wouldn't say I'm eager to change the law. When we first signed on the house, we're going back to Virginia to get our things. I'm reading all the bylaws, and honestly, it felt like I was moving into an HOA. And that was it was a real turnout for me. And you can sit there and say, hey, here's a new board coming on, a new commission coming, and you can just not get involved and hope that they do what you think might be right, or you can step up and try to be part of it. But it's just, I wouldn't come in and try to change a lot of things, but it's just, it seemed extreme how things have been leading up to there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tell me about your work with the Richmond Volunteer Rescue Squad. What were you doing with them?
So
Were you actually a provider?
I trained as an EMT, so I was working as an EMT there, and joined on with the board as a treasurer.
Ah.
Yep. So I was down in Richmond, Virginia. So it's a volunteer squad. It's the only volunteer squad in the city where there's also a public service at ambulances as well. It's a city about 250,000 people.
And how long were you their treasurer?
Just 1 year.
Just 1 year?
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
Great. And you are an EMT?
Not right now, no.
No.
I let some of that expire when I got out to New Orleans. But right now I'm getting ready to get into fire school.
I would just ask the social media question, what your perspective on that is.
I was forced to join it to get on Marketplace, and that's as far as I want to go with it. Craigslist died, Marketplace came on. I look at the Londonderry page, I don't get involved in it, I don't post, I don't, I finally let 2 people be friends, my neighbors here, but, forever it was just, blank Facebook with no friends or anything.
Any further questions?
Let me tease that other question about, so what do you think Londonderry needs to be looking like in 5 years? What are some of the I would call them foundational things that need to happen?
It needs to be able to be a thriving community economically and, affordability for people to be. And, it needs to be somewhere people can move into and be able to make their property how they see it without having to jump through a bunch of hoops and barriers, and, you know, businesses need to be able to come and, set up shop and thrive without being regulated to death. So they just need somewhere that, a place where people can come and just be welcome to do what they want to do.
Thank you.
What bothers you about town that you'd like to change? I'm not saying that, that didn't come out exactly. I think you understood what I meant.
I'm not gonna go to a public meeting and say everything that's happened already, because, but I had conversations right when I moved in that were kind of jarring, and, I'm not gonna sit here and talk gossip on the people though, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't that quick for names.
Yep. But, it's just a lot of the regulations are being put against the industries, just coming from a farming family, and, people doing everything they can just to get by, having a new bylaw set that restricts, how often you can go out and try to work. That was just a real big turnoff to be here.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Maya, we'll go with you next.
Well, I'm Maya Drummond from the Londonderry Inn. It's my 25th year there, and the inn has changed a lot over the years, from being a hotel to being, in 2010, trying to figure out what to do with the building to stay afloat. Started taking in some people that were working in the area and needed temporary, like seasonal housing, mostly in ski season. I realized that there's really a need, especially now, for affordable workforce housing, not just seasonal, but year-round. And as the years are going by, we're starting to almost like collect a really great core group of people that live at the inn year-round. And some of them have had problems living other places, but they're perfect for us. And just a real feeling of community, like a community house where people feel not just like they have a bunch of friends and support, even people to give them rides, they're shopping together, but they have their privacy, and then they also have shared spaces, and we keep it really affordable. We only charge what we need to charge and no more. We're always trying to figure out how to keep things really affordable, and we really love it. We thought about retiring and downsizing last year, but we realized we don't really have any place to go, and we can't afford any place else, so we thought we'll just stay. And we'll just keep going as long as we can. I'm going to be 65 next week, so I've slowed down a little bit. But what I would like to see for the town of Londonderry is I'd like people to feel really welcome, especially young families, and I'd like for older folks, to feel like they can afford to stay. And I realize the Planning Commission doesn't really decide on, the cost of living in Vermont. But we can try to help each other and use the money that's available to kind of fill in a little bit, help people to be able to continue to live here and live out their lives here if they want to. And I would also like to see young families feel like this is a place they can come. All three of my daughters left to find work elsewhere. They couldn't afford to live and work here. They didn't want to be in the innkeeping business. And it's kind of sad, and then my husband Brian, his 3 kids also had to leave the area. One of them lives in Chester in subsidized housing because he needs help with some things. But it would be so great. I see some young families here, and I get so excited when I see them setting up little cottage businesses. I'd like to see more of that. And what made me come here to apply to be on the Planning Commission is I thought maybe I could and everybody here sounds similar, just bring a sense of good cheer and cooperation, and have people feel included, not just the people on the planning commission, but everyone in the community feel like they know what's going on every step of the way. They know what questions the planning commission is trying to, figure out, and we say, this is what we're working on. What ideas does everybody have? Kind of the planning commission would be kind of the center of a hub of the whole community working together to solve problems that are really exciting to be able to solve. And the answers can change over time. So what works this year may be adjusted in the future, and always just have that kind of open, active, alive process. So anyway, I'm kind of excited, about it, and and I'm here. So if I can be of help, I would love to.
Okay. In question number 3, you said, I hope to be the voice of fiscal responsibility. Tell me more about that.
Oh, well, fiscal responsibility is actually one of my favorite topics, especially at the end, because trying to keep costs really down so people can afford to live there when some of them are only making $15 an hour. So trying to figure out how to make things work year by year, and cutting costs in creative ways. I really believe in that, and I think volunteerism is a way that we can cut costs. Having a community offer up resources to each other to help create what we all need. And I've seen this actually on social media. Somebody will post saying, I need this, or can someone help me with that? And 8 or 10 people will say, I can help, I've got some of this, I have some extra, I can drive you. And I love that. When I first moved here, there was a lot of work to be done, and there was a lot of stuff to be hauled out of the building. And it was kind of overwhelming, and I went down to the corner store and I said, I need help. And neighbors just showed up with gloves on and rolled up their sleeves, and they said, we're here, what can we do? That's the kind of town that Londonderry is, and I want it to stay that way. I want it to feel like a place that people really care about each other. And, if we disagree on things, that should be fine. That should be like, yeah, of course we disagree, we have different ideas, so let's sit down and figure out what idea makes the most sense to everybody right now, and then keep it open, flexible process, but that the underlying theme would be we care about each other, we'll do anything for each other to help each other, and we'll just figure out how, to make it happen. So.
To piggyback off of one of Martha's questions earlier in the interviews about teamwork and addressing issues when you guys come to a pass in the planning commission, how would you like to see that be addressed, or what do you believe it should be addressed?
If people disagree, there's usually some common ground in their thinking, and then they have different ideas about how to approach. They may have totally different goals. And so if everybody really pencils it out and say, okay, here's what we're thinking, here's several different goals, here's several different approaches to reach goals that we agree on, and just say all of them are good, all the answers are good, so let's figure out which one is the best answer. From that point of view, everyone, I think, feels like they matter. No one feels dismissed. And then we don't have to decide immediately either. We can kind of think about it together. And there may be an idea that no one in the room has thought of that at that meeting. And there may be yet another idea that actually comes in and it's like, this is actually even better than all of the ideas that we had up to this moment. So, it's kind of things are constantly changing and new information comes along. So as far as people disagreeing, I think there needs to be a really an environment where it's totally fine for people to disagree. It's totally fine for them to have completely different goals and ideas about how to approach it, and just say, yeah, bring it on, let's look at it. And I've had good success with that, so no one gets shut down.
Thank you.
And have you participated in other sort of municipal groups
You know, it's been a long time, but when I lived in Northern California, the wine industry had, and not American companies, but some Chinese companies had come and were buying up some land and wanted to clear cut a bunch of redwood forest to put in grapes. And the way they were doing it was not good for the environment. And so I went to a meeting where all these townspeople, it was similar to the town meeting where all people showed up. All these townspeople from the town of Occidental, California, which is a little train town in the Redwoods. They all came and they spoke, and there was so much information and passion, and people were so knowledgeable. There were geologists and hydrologists and Native Americans. Anyway, to answer the question, I ended up using my own money to publish the transcript of that meeting, and that parlayed into joining forces with all the people in town that wanted to save the redwoods. And so I ended up getting very, very involved in local politics, but one of the things I learned was instead of taking an adversarial position to the wine industry interests, we went and asked them how we could work together. And we actually gained their cooperation to some degree. We were able to get new water protection rights to be put in place that were modeled after the neighboring county, Napa County. And there were a lot of people that felt really threatened by, you know, the group that wanted to save the redwoods. They felt, you know, especially wine families in the region, they thought, are they going to come after us next? But one by one, they started to realize that we're not on totally opposite sides, that we really both want to have a safe, healthy environment. And everyone loved wine. We all loved wine too. So I think there's a way that when people feel really welcome, that they don't become defensive, and then they start to really talk about, well, this is what I really need, this is what I want. And if people say, okay, tell me what's your wish list, what do you want to see happen? Mm-hmm. And then hear each other out.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions?
I would just touch on, as a business owner, I'm sure you use social media, and do you have positive ways that you are able to use social media currently, and would you be able to continue that?
You know, social media actually can be used as a way to create more peace and more goodwill, I find. I mean, people can certainly vent on social media and use it as a kind of place to just unload all their frustration, and we see that a lot. But, and I don't use social media for the Londonderry Inn as much as probably I should, because I'm pretty old school, so people call me, they'll mail a check, or they just show up. We figure it out, but I'm very old school that way. I use social media more to share the beauty of the area, places that I've been, the seasonal changes, and I also see, I mean, for me personally, one of the things I do on social media, and if you look on my page, you'll see it a lot, is I'm always trying to uplift people just a little tiny bit if I can, because I think people tend to feel isolated at times and alone, and there's a lot of people that are suffering from depression or worry about the future, and they see on social media what looks like a picture of success. Everybody out there is so happy and popular and rich and, you know, all these things, but those are all just people putting their best foot forward to each other. So I think social media, as far as the Planning Commission, can be a place, I think it can be actually a good tool for people to feel like they are included on a regular basis. Anyone that wants to just read what topic is, you know, being discussed, what ideas, what questions, and what I love is for people to be reading about the process, not hearing about it after it's all done. Not having to say, well, we decided this, but to say, here's what we're thinking about, to be included early on, you know? And then it can, on the downside, it could probably get very active and busy, and who's going to go through and read all the responses, you know? So I haven't figured that all out yet, but there's not that many people in Londonderry. You know, there's enough room for everybody to have opinions, I think. So, and I think those opinions are important.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Pamela, you go over there.
Hopefully that helps.
If you'd just like to start out with anything you'd like to say, or do you want us to just go into questions?
I think you have a very difficult decision ahead of you. The people that have applied for this position are a very diverse group. The planning commission that resigned was a very diverse group. My primary concern is that I think the town may have a presumption that the planning commission is going to be selected, and that we are immediately going to start looking at those bylaws. And without the education that they need regarding the open meeting laws, what the state requires, what the Women Planning Commission requires, even the Vermont Code of Ethics that have come down, would be doing them, the Planning Commission, a disservice, it would be doing the Select Board a disservice, and it would be doing the town a disservice if they didn't take the time to get that education.
We've already reached out to get some classes done for whoever is selected.
Questions?
So Pam, can you summarize your work experience for me, please?
I started at Grace Cottage Hospital as a graduate nurse, and at that time, graduate nurses were allowed to do anything that a registered nurse would do, which means I would help deliver babies, I took care of the emergency room, as well as the hospital, and if I had a nurse's aide, and at that time they had a 16-bed nursing home connected to it, I had to oversee that if I just had an aide over there. So it was a lot of responsibility for a 22-year-old, and I kept saying, is this legal? Because I was concerned about that. My husband and I moved away for a very brief time, came back. I continued working at Grace Cottage, left there, took some time off, and then started at Springfield Hospital. And a year after I started there, I was working in the intensive care unit. And then when that closed, it became just an inpatient care unit. And that's when I found out I'm an adrenaline junkie. I missed the excitement of the ICU and not knowing what you were going to be doing and playing around with all the drips and everything that goes along with that. It was an exciting time. So, and then I retired.
And then what?
I retired.
You retired.
What do you believe you can bring to the planning commission?
I can bring the fact that I don't own a business, so my concern with the bylaws that address businesses, I would look at it more as what is good for the effect of those bylaws on someone's livelihood versus a personal, you know, what does it do for me? I have an open mind. I want to know with some of the bylaws, what is the intent, what is the harm, and is it enforceable?
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just, a lot of people have said it already before I even had a chance to ask it. I've asked a couple, but what does Londonderry mean to you?
I was not born here, okay? My parents moved here when I was 6 months old. My mother was born here. And all of my memories, my childhood memories, are of this town. Learning how to swim at Memorial Park, playing marbles at Grover School, learning how to play the saxophone in this room, and being part of a small band. And because music was not part of the curriculum, we had a bandmaster who had several small bands throughout Wyndham County, and it was called West River Valley Band. And we played at Bonneville Fair in October, and it's very cold. then. And one year, we played at the State House one night, and then we, not that summer, but the following summer of '65, we played at the World's Fair representing Vermont during Vermont Week.
Wow, wait.
Yeah, that's a crowning glory, you know? In high school, there was still an American Legion auxiliary in this town, and because the students went to all the different high schools in the area, they reserved the right to pick their own Girls State and Boys State representative, and I was a Girls State representative. So all my memories are here.
Thank you.
So Pat, when you've been with a group of colleagues
I'm sorry?
when you're with a group of colleagues, let's say on a nursing floor or something, and you guys have to solve a problem, what role do you typically play in that group? If you could.
If I played a role, it was probably as a leader. I was involved in a lot of committees in the hospital, and many of those had subcommittees that I was involved in. There were some that were specific for the unit, and there were a core group of us, that worked all of those little committees. And so we just got together and hashed it out, you know, what is the problem, how do we solve it, what education do we need for the nurses. So, and it was always about education.
I think most of the things been covered, I guess. Almost.
Martha?
I think I'm pretty good, thank you. Thank you, Pam. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. And now, Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Twitchell, born and raised here, went away for 25 years to serve in the military, and then I raised my family after 10 years in the Navy. I came back about 16 years ago because after seeing all the world had to offer, I knew this was the place I needed to be. I've lived in a lot of places where we didn't have actual local government. In South Carolina, for example, I lived out in an unincorporated part of the town, so our town government was actually the county government, and we had a lot of things thrust upon us, and some of them weren't that good. Some of them were very stressful. And during some of those processes, I got involved with our own local communities to go to some of the council meetings at the county and discuss these matters. And in some cases, we were actually able to change their minds on some things. My time down there, I spent it mostly as an auto mechanic. So I was working a lot of hours and didn't have a lot of time to get involved with the nuts and bolts of county government or town government. But my time growing up here, I was not into this building. I don't know some secret about it. This was my daycare growing up. My folks were the town clerk for many years, and because of that, I was privy to a lot of the goings-on, and I knew a lot of the selectmen and the planning commission members, auditors, listers, town attorneys, town agents. I learned from that experience, I got a lot of respect for what people are able to accomplish because they're all volunteers. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think this town could use some more volunteers doing different things. Some things we do all right. The rescue squad, the fire departments always can use more, but there's a good core group of guys doing that. We have volunteers that put, flower boxes on the bridges, and they do a great job keeping them up. There's some volunteers that help out at Neighborhood Connections, which has turned out to be a godsend for a lot of people. They give rides to folks. My wife's one of them. So that's one of the things I preach about is we all have to find a way to pitch in when we can. So up until now, I've pitched in by, I umpire Little League. I play Santa Claus. If I see a cause that's worth my time, I try to raise funds and point awareness to it. When the bylaws came out and I started reading them and started seeing people's reaction to it, I was thinking to myself, well, you know, the cynic in me can be heard talking about this. And it turned out that a lot of folks liked what I had to say about it and encouraged me to run for the empty seat on the select board, and if I didn't get it, would I consider the planning commission. So I do have a desire to serve my town, but part of this is because I've had a lot of people tell me that they'd like to see me on the board. For my part, my desire is that I'm pretty much as local as it gets. So me being on the planning commission would be one part of the diverse makeup of the board, certainly from a local experience and the knowledge of the history of the town. And with my job with the town, I recognize the various groups we have, the tribes, so to speak. So I kind of have a pulse on what's going on and what people are thinking from working at the transfer station. And in my mind, I think that could be very valuable to be used on the board, that kind of knowledge. So that's why I'm here. And sorry I'm late, I had a doctor's appointment that I got held up at, and I just got back from Rutland.
No worries.
Thank you, Steve.
Questions for Steve?
Sure, so Steve, tell me about your training department responsibilities with the Navy.
So in 1990, I just finished 5 years on a U.S. Navy warship and was transferred to a reserve center to be the training coordinator for 280 reservists. We had 6 units. They had various functions, but one of the particular units was a field hospital unit that we deployed to Iraq, actually to Saudi Arabia during Operation Desert Shield, which is the first time we sent folks up over there under George Bush. Fortunately for them, they didn't see any action, obviously, being in Saudi Arabia, and they actually didn't treat a whole lot of people because our guys were so effective over there wasn't that many that got injured or hurt. But nonetheless, it was a pretty intense period. We were getting bomb threats and things like that. So we had to beef up security at the Reserve Center. And my job was to coordinate training for each unit to track their progress in their training so that if they were ever called up for deployment, they would know what deficiencies they needed further training in. And the units that I was coordinating for typically as a unit had about a 95% complete rate on their training. I coordinated their 2-week active duty and tracked their expenses, got them their travel, their airplane tickets, these kind of things. I didn't manage a budget for this, but it was a constant reminder to always try to be as economical as I could when arranging travel. Occasionally on the drill weekends, I would give lectures. I went to instructor training, and it wasn't required that I gave a lot of training because these units had a good handle on what they needed to learn. But when it came to basic military type stuff that everybody needed to learn, I got involved with that kind of thing. And I also did some intelligence lectures for some of the officers that were in charge of these units.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
And I'm good to go.
Go ahead.
You go and then I'll go, yeah.
Yeah, I would just ask kind of the similar question that I've been touching on. I know you have social media in your life and you've used it very effectively in your position at the transfer station to find home for things, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. What's your perspective on social media as a town official?
So, I kind of have my toes in different worlds on social media. As far as our local Londonderry Community Forum, I try to keep things light and civil. I think it's important that that type of page be used is for communication. And within that, I've been very effective at finding homes for very useful things, sometimes very valuable things. People come to me and ask me, hey, if you see one of these, set it aside, and that happens now and then. I think social media can be a really valuable communication tool because there's so many people with their noses in it. So for my part, I tend to get a response when I post something. And I also write these little, I call them little things. They're usually pretty uplifting, painfully obvious type things. They come from life experience, and they usually involve a lesson. And I've had an enormous response from people on those. I started doing it right after COVID hit because I thought it might be a way for, maybe a couple people read this thing and they feel better about things. But I've also written some scathing things too. For instance, when a thrifty attic gets dumped on like they always do, they put a barrier around the porch and people now are just leaving it on the ground because they can't get it over the barrier. So I try to point awareness out to these kind of things, and I also know that I'm cynical by nature, and I'm not necessarily the guy to back out of an argument. So I save those for other pages where there's people that just want to talk trash to each other. I do that with those folks. I will stir the pot. I think if I was on the planning commission, I'd have to be a lot more judicious. I'm perfectly okay with that. For me, it's fun. I don't mind poking the bear because half the stuff you see on there is people poking the bear, so I poke the bear back at them. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
You have another question, Mark?
I do. I love the way you seek and receive feedback from people as a prompt to do something. So the fact that people had said, Steve, you should run for the select board spot, or to this spot. What do you think inside of you about what you'd like to really be doing?
Well, I want to win the lottery and run for governor, but I think my time would be better served on Londonderry's planning commission. I like to think that we can hold on to things. We don't have to change just because some folks want us to. We have a state government that's populated mostly by people that moved here. And that state government just hammered us on taxes recently. They overrode the governor's veto on some things. And it's going to be painful for some folks that maybe are on a budget to come up with an extra 14% or 20% or whatever it is on their property tax. So I kind of think that we got to be realistic. If we want to just grow the tax base, just to grow the tax base and raise revenue for the town, which essentially is just raising revenue for the state, then fine, we can become Manchester, we can become, some other place that has bylaws similar to what was presented to us. And property in Vermont in Londonderry becomes a commodity, it doesn't become a home. I kind of would like to see the old community come back in a lot of ways. We used to have a lot of what I would call team spirit, where, we had old home day parades in South Londonderry when I was a kid. Donkey baseball. Now, I don't expect we're gonna get those kind of things back, but there's nothing that says we gotta move away from the stuff we have now either. So, I think the planning commission could be very valuable to help preserve these things. And maybe there's some things we could kind of bring back. Yeah, we have great volunteers that remind us of the old days with our really fantastic historic, Mimi Wright and the crowd doing the Historical Society. Those are valuable things for our town. And it's great to see how many people show up at those events that aren't really from here, because they have an interest in it. But I don't think we have a community right now. I think we have a bunch of tribes that all want their own thing. And so I'd like to see that change. That's the change I'd like to see.
Great.
Everybody, no more questions?
That's everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
So, before we go into the next one, I just want to say that I'm not going to guarantee we're going to pick a planning commission tonight. Some members might want to think about it till Monday, but it is on the agenda, so we can't do that tonight. If you guys would like to stick around. Otherwise, we'll notify you when we do make a decision. So moving on to 4B, executive session, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee per 1 VSA 313A3.
I move to enter executive session to consider the evaluation of a public officer pursuant to Title I VSA Section 313A3 and inviting anybody. Shane to attend the executive session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
coming, and thank you for your interest in the positions. It's great to see the turnout.
We've got some,
And I'm not sure how long this will last.
Gary, you come back in.
Yeah, you can come back in after
Come back in with
executives.
Wayne Hawley.
Yep, please.
Okay.
Turn the recorder on, Trey.
You guys made it a tough decision, I have to say.
We all good? All right. Came out of executive session at 6:44. 4C, consider changing the number of planning commission members.
I move to change the number of planning commission members from 7 to 5 as authorized under Title 24 VSA Section 4322C1, effective today, August 14th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 4D, appoint planning commission members to fill vacancies.
I move to appoint the following individuals to the planning commission to fill existing vacancies with transitional staggered terms as follows. Jen Greenfield and Steve Twitchell to March 31st, 2027.
Second.
Oh, too much thought to that, but Pamela, we know you're dealing with your husband, so we figured we'd give you the shortest one just to give you leeway if you need it. But other than that, there was not really went where.
Right, and the expectation would be, Pam, that you could re-up.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's-
Would I have to put in another application or just what do I do now?
Yeah, we normally put it, we have a notice of vacancies, we put that on the notice of vacancy, and there is a check mark for incumbents, you just check it. And it's really so we can keep track of addresses.
Yeah, for many years, we didn't really have terms, and it was just, you were on it for however long, but this was a way to give people a way to say, well, you finally got a term, it's up, if you want to step down, you can.
You don't have to resign if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But so after the specific term, so it goes to a 3-year term.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you all for your applications and your time.
I would encourage anybody with continued interest to stay in touch with the planning commission as well, because as they gear up and consider their own future on their commission, they may choose to expand back to the 7-member board that it was. I think we felt at this time having a smaller number just to get rolling again, and then get recommendations from the planning commission to fill more seats if necessary. It may or may not go that way, but appreciate everybody's interest, and
we have
keep in
some
touch.
open positions other places, don't we?
Yeah, we do have other open positions and committees, and so once, now that this is done, I'll revise the notice of vacancies accordingly. And what I was going to do is send out an email to all the new planning commission members to try to set up a first meeting. And during that first meeting, you'd need to select a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary, and establish the regular meeting, establish the regular meeting date. You could just keep the same one that had been, but you can all decide what you want to do. And we're also going to get, at some point, Wyndham Regional Commission to come in, and they would do a tutorial on what does the planning commission do, and they've done that before.
I believe it was, I'd have to check with Tina again, but it was sometime in September, I think they said they could do it.
Yeah, cool.
There's several different types of trainings available for anybody involved in municipal work. So
And I could send out
Links.
materials and links and stuff for people as well.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, that'd be great.
Steve?
So, during this whole process over the last few months, I've, as a citizen, I've met with several of the previous planning commission members. And I don't know what would be appropriate, but I would like to extend an invitation for any of them that would like to attend one of our first meetings to just come so we can thank them for what they've done, and so that they could offer us a tidbit. I think it would be a good way to bridge the divide.
That could be one of the first
All your
agenda items.
Yeah, all your meetings are fully open to the public, just like ours, so they're welcome to come at any time.
Something we would request, or if the select board would request it for us.
Yep, that would be up to the planning commission to make
Okay.
that decision.
Well, when we meet, we can discuss it.
Agenda item number 2.
Maya?
Even though I'm not, I wasn't chosen for the planning commission, I did, discuss with some of the former, planning commission members about them helping the new planning commission and would they be willing. They said they'd be very willing to help, to save a lot of time for the new, members and available for anyone that want to reach out to them. So they seem very cooperative and interested in helping, and it seemed like a goodwill, feeling goodwill. So I hope that will be the case.
There's a lot of wisdom there with those folks, so.
Well, again, thank you everyone for your applications and
Please
giving
don't
your
stop
time to the town.
volunteering.
Yep. We'll get that updated list, and that's always available at the post office and here and on the town website for any other positions that are open, for anyone who wants to go for anything else. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Who wants the last one?
Move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Still might need some people.
Did we do that?